Welcome to Sovereigns SMP, a Minecraft survival multiplayer server where a group of friends collaborate to make some amazing Minecraft builds. I am standing in the apiary module of Industrial Base Hypothalassa. Creating large structures like Industrial Base Hypothalassa in a survival world require the player to gather many items. Often gathering items like copper and glass can take some time, and it is imperative that a player constructs farms. In a Minecraft survival world, a farm is a contraption or a device that harnesses game mechanics to produce large quantities of items that are needed for builds. And this episode is going to focus on some of the large-scale farms and game mechanics that need to be understood to build those farms. To start us off, I'm going to visit Wolfie. Wolfie is a player on the server that understands all things Redstone. I have asked Wolfie to give an introduction to Redstone and provide a very basic explanation of one of the more complex yet powerful facets of the game. This explanation should help people who are new to Minecraft, but it might also be useful to people like parents or grandparents of Minecraft players, enabling them to understand the mechanics behind automated redstone contraptions. Gosh, that's an amazing entrance. What is it? What kind of animal?
It's a dragon skull.
Gosh, that thing's huge. Imagine fighting that.
So glad that the ended dragon was a bit smaller than this.
So we're here to talk about Redstone, but before I go into that, tell me about you and your base. What are you doing here?
Well, I'm just mainly vibing, to be honest. I'm just here building, just running around, mainly mining, getting resources, and whenever I feel like it, I'm just building a bit, like stuff that I like. I'm kind of in the style of this. How do you call this biome again?
Badlands biome.
The Badlands. Thank you. Kind of like in the style of more Western vibe, the Badlands vibe, the Skulls vibe. Which is why there's a dragon skull.
I look forward to seeing this as it develops. I'm gonna get into making some more redstone, but you being the resident redstone expert, I was hoping you could give a bit of an example what to do with it. Brought some blocks with me, but just wondering if you could tell me, like right from the beginning, how does redstone work? It'd be nice for anyone who's watching this video.
Indeed, let's okay, so before we fly down, redstone works is you power signal, and then there's like redstone wires, which powers other instruments, which makes magic stuff happen.
Okay, well, let's look at the magic, right?
Yeah, all of that combined can make some crazy contraptions. I don't have any contraptions for you today. It's just the very basics of how it works. So let's follow.
It's the best way to fly, really.
I do agree with that.
Oh, so you already got the stuff set up.
Yeah, it's just like kind of the very, very basics, you know? Kind of powering it on, what works or not. So you've got different ways of powering on a redstone. Well, of course, wait. Let's start with this one. This is a redstone signal. See, it's got 4 sides. I can put one here.
It's kind of like a wire, almost.
I guess you can compare it with that the most, yeah. Yeah, it's a wire actually, and if you turn it on, it will, and you lead it towards a direction, it will turn on whatever is on that side. Just powering it on, which you can see throughout this little setup. You've got pressure plates and buttons, which each does a different kind of thing. For example, the stone button does not activate whenever I throw an item onto it. By a player touch or a mob touch.
Okay, so it's triggered by something moving over that area. That's cool.
Yes, and wooden pressure plate actually does turn on with
from an item. I've been playing Minecraft for a while, and I never knew that at all. I've never actually used it for checking items. That's awesome.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I mean, you can use it for like item farms. Whenever something drops and something ends up on this pressure plate, it will activate something else.
Hey, cool.
Which a stone pressure plate would not be able to do. And you can actually compare. You can actually see the difference between stone and wood again in buttons. First off is the duration of the output. As you can see, it's kind of a short duration, yet this one stays on for a little bit longer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so even if I start the wooden one first, it probably... Yeah, wow. Okay.
There's one bigger effect, which is mainly the important one. If you can step aside before I shoot you, it does not work. As you can see, the arrow hit the stone button.
Good shot, by the way.
It does nothing. And the wooden button does.
Ah! That's amazing. So you can set up some sort of target game.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
I guess you could probably even use the target block as well, but there's one over there.
That's true. But before the target block, this was the way to actually turn on. I missed. To turn on contraptions from afar. I don't know if I actually hit it right now, but
Looks like you just missed.
did I just miss? No. Did I? No, I actually didn't. It's not turning on. Never mind, I did miss. Oh, I don't know. That's fine. But the target block has also been added to the game, which means this is a better suitable way for turning on redstone signals. Yet this one does not stay on when the arrow hits it. It just gives like a couple of ticks and then it turns off. You can see the redstone signal turns on and off again.
Now I understand this one gives a stronger signal the better your shot is as well, right?
Well, let's test it.
Yeah, see that? For hitting the outside, it just gave 1 bar, and if you hit the bullseye, it goes right up a bit. Yeah. It's interesting, so you can actually judge how good of a shot you are.
Exactly. And then these are also different ways of turning it on with just like a redstone block or a redstone torch. It will give out the strongest signal possible, which is 15. And that I've got beautifully laid out right here. This is turned on by a lever. You just flick it once and it will stay turned on.
Oh.
And it will go all the way till 15. And from then on, it stops. As you can see,
I've got
there's no output right now.
light to show.
Turn it on.
Okay, so that's working there. Okay.
In order to make longer redstone contraptions to output the strength of certain, to repeat the strength of the redstone, you use a repeater, which actually outputs the maximum strength once again, once a bit of redstone is, which has been turned on leads into it.
So it just detects the signal coming into it and then puts out a strong signal to keep it, make it go longer. Kind of like a booster.
If, for example, if I take this one away and put this one there, there's nothing.
Yep.
Because this is the weakest signal there is, and if I place it back, it immediately turns on again.
Hey, awesome.
I'm quickly going to have to take a quick nap because monsters will spawn in this area. Now, of course, we have turned on different kind of things right now. You know how to turn it on, but what is it exactly used for? Because nothing.
Yeah, so powering
No,
contraptions.
it just gives light. Which is, well, I mean, this isn't everything right here, but this is kind of the main basis of what you can do with it. So, for example, we've got 2 pistons right here. We've got a normal piston and a sticky piston. And the main difference between that is, if you press this button from the sticky piston, it fills the block down with it.
So it moves the thing up and down, which is cool. You can move blocks around.
Yeah, which could be used for redstone doors, which means they can pull away blocks. Yet, if you push this one, it pushes a block, and it does not.
Aha!
So it will stay suspended in air, and even if I do this, it cannot be brought down ever again.
And my mind's running deviously here. There's all the traps and things I can make with these, which is very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got a different kind of block here, which is kind of part of the redstone experience. You can use sticky piston for this. You can use a normal stick piston for this because this is actually a very sticky block. Which means if I turn this one on, the block adjacent to it will go with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Midge has been making for them the slime blocks. Got a few of them already, which yeah, it's cool to see it work.
Where my supplies come from. Slime blocks can be used. These kinds of contraptions can be used for different kind of things. Mainly used for flying contraptions.
Can I stick you to the slime?
Kind of bouncy.
Ooh.
It's a very weird block. Technically, it makes no sense because it's a very sticky block. Yet for the player, it's a bouncy block. So if you want to make a trampoline, you can.
Whoa! Okay, cool. I've never actually done that. That's amazing. I can probably activate it myself here. Woo!
Yeah, you can actually. And you can make a slime elevator, for example, where you jump up all the way towards the highest points. Well, of course, you can also get a dispenser, which means you can shoot out things.
How good of an aim is it?
Well, as you can see, one time an arrow landed here, right now it landed there, so it's kind of different strengths.
Looks like you hit me directly in the heart that time. So.
Oh, that actually hit me in the foot. That's only 4 arrows over it. It's right now. And this right here is actually the most difficult Redstone addition to the game. It's kind of difficult to see how this one is used or how it actually works. So I'm going to try my best to explain it right now. Right now it's a normal mode. I believe it's a comparison mode. Because it's a comparator. This one is mainly used to have a block, like a chest right here, and it will count how many items are in the chest. As you can see, my shulker box is kind of full, which means it puts a signal strength of that amount based on how.
Yeah, so it's about a third full, and that's probably about 5 blocks of signal there. Yeah, there's 5 blocks. Okay.
And this can be used for making automatic item sorters. You can stop hoppers from dropping items into it if you put a signal strength onto it. And once a certain amount is reached inside a hopper, it will automatically release.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Side into the chest. Just break the signal. Yet there's also a different part to compare this, which is kind of difficult. So first of all, it's not a repeater. As you can see, it does not go 15 blocks from this angle. It will just continue the signal out strength given from before.
Yeah, cool.
And the other mode, it's a bit more difficult mode.
Oh, what?
I'm turning it on right now. You can see a torch being turned on, and which means if there's which means subtraction mode actually. So if I turn this one on, you can see there's no signal out strength. Because this one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so there's a signal input of 5. Yes, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so it's once again comparing the signal strengths between them and then reacting. So before, if it was a stronger signal on the side, it would output the difference. Now it just cuts it off if it's more than it.
So this one is 1 strength less, which means
you should get 1 line. Okay. Cool, so I can use this to set up a check for if I've got something in there, a box that I want to produce 5 signal strength, I put a 4 single block here, and that way it'll give me a 1 signal strength when I need it. Yeah, okay, I see how that works.
Exactly. And these are actually the kind of the most important subject. Oh wait, I've got one more little contraption.
Okay.
I've got a beautiful observer. This one actually detects whenever a block update happens in front of it. You can see a little face on it. It's kind of like scanning whatever's in front, so player won't do anything.
It's got an angry face by the looks of that, or it's concentrating maybe.
I think it's concentrating very hard because it needs to be able to detect as soon as something changes. Because we can hit it and it doesn't work, but if I play something, it immediately has to act. You can kind of fake it out, bam, and it works. And it gives on a signal strength of just 1 tick, which could make some very interesting things because as you can see, this is a sticky piston, yet it did not drag this block down. And this is kind of one mechanic which I could explain, and I can best explain it with a redstone block. It's kind of, it could be used for a T-flop switch.
T flip-flop, okay.
Yeah. So if I put like, as you can see right now, nothing is on. Yet if I update the block, it will turn on, and it will not turn off again unless.
So why doesn't the piston pull it back in? That doesn't make sense to me.
Basically, due to that it's too fast. It's too fast.
Oh, too fast for the game to realize.
There's a block right there, because it just immediately has to subtract again, and it does not realize that the block it has pushed is there, which means nothing will be built.
The amount of time I've spent trying to make T flip-flops using other mechanisms is insane compared to this. I never realized this mechanic was in the game.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's a very easy design and very compact as well. Like it's only 4 blocks wide actually.
That's just so simple. That's ridiculously simple.
And T-flops can be used is actually one of the most simple, well, not simple, but like one of the most important simple mechanics that you could use during Minecraft.
But in the future, if I do need to build something crazy redstone from scratch, you're pretty confident at being able to help explain how things work and see if we can together figure it out?
Definitely. I will always be available to help. Just come by with my base and I'll be there.
Yeah, I think I will do that. What I want to show is how water works in the game. If you drop it, it'll become a source block like that. You can sort of see it spreading out on the ground. Now water travels 7 blocks. You can see from the source block. So if I look at the blocks underneath here, it goes out 7 and then stops. The cool thing about water though is when you place it like that, and if I drop an item into it, it'll push the item along the ground. So it's a great way to actually move items around when we're building farms. And you'll see this in place in a few of the farms. Now that is 7 directions, 7 from the source block. So if I cut out some blocks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll cut out an 8th one to show you how far it flows. From the source block. Let's count that again. So 1 more block here, and you'll see that the water actually stops. Now the 7 can flow around corners, so if I cut out like that, as long as it's 7 blocks from where it was, you can see it can go around corners, which is a great way to actually steer where you want items to go. Now if we make the terrain drop a level, it'll actually restart that 7. Go down an extra square here. If I do that, the water will flow down and then go for another 7 blocks. So we can actually make water go for a long distance this way. Okay, so I'm just going to make a tower. Okay, now if I place water at the top of this, it will flow down. Now just as before, the top one is the source water block, and everything below that is flowing water. Now, I can make things called a bubble column, which I'll do that, and that's by either placing a magma or a soul sand block. It's a little bit messy here until I put a trapdoor or something in place. Okay, so here I've placed a door which then stops the water flowing out, so we can keep it drier on the outside. Okay, so in here you can see this is flowing water. It's moving down at the moment. You can see the animation on the screen from the source block at the top. Now, I can turn all of that water into source blocks if I put kelp in it. So if I plant a kelp in the ground here, I can keep planting it and the kelp will grow up. Now, everywhere that kelp is will change to a source water block. And that's now all source blocks. Now the reason we do that is when we want to transport things up and down in a water stream. Now that's done by using either a soul sand, which I'll place down here now. Now soul sand releases bubbles into source blocks, which then push items up. So standing here you can see it's shot me up in the air. The same thing happens with items. So if I throw an item into the stream, the item shoots up in the air. Which is a way that we can transport things up in the game. It's also used often as an elevator for moving the player up and down. Now the opposite effect we can also do is if I remove this soul sand and instead place a magma block. Now magma blocks do the opposite. They create a bubble column which heads down. So I'll go back up to the top here. Okay, you can see there it's sort of pulled me down to the bottom. And this was used in an earlier farm, which you can see here. That's the fundamentals of how water work. Okay, so here I am at Cephalopod Station, which is the drowned farm that I built in the first video. And this one uses some very basic water mechanics to make the farm work. The first thing is it uses soul sand, which you can see all across the bottom of the farm up there. Now soul sand, as I showed in the earlier video, when it's next to a water source block, it generates bubbles, which either pushes a player or a computer-controlled character up a water stream, up a water column. It also can push items up there, which you'll see later how that works. Now, I've used a water column for a couple of things here. One's for this water elevator, which is something I can walk into with the player, and I'll get pushed up to the top, which is a great way to travel up very quickly. I've got two signs here to stop the water flowing out. That way it contains the water inside that column. Okay, so let's have a look how this bubble elevator works. So I'll just stand in that, and you can see my character is automatically being pushed to the top. Very quick way to get around. Now I'm at the top of the farm. Okay, now that I'm here, I can go into free cam and show you how the main part of the farm works. So, as I said in the first video, this is all in a river biome. And with river biomes, or water in river biomes, it has a chance to generate the enemy called a drowned, which is a drowned zombie. Now, drowned zombies drop different items when they die, but one of the things it drops is the shells, which I might have on me if I'm lucky. No, I don't have any shells at the moment. Shells which are used to make conduits, which is why I built this farm. They also can drop tridents, but you have to physically kill them to do that. They won't just die and drop tridents. Anyway, this big box here is a darkened room, so it lets drowned spawn, and because it's all river biomes, when I go inside here, you'll see hopefully lots of drowned. You can see them being pushed up to the top. So as we looked at before, there was soul sand on the bottom. So every time the enemy spawns in this area, it's pushed straight to the top using soul sand through water. And then at the top there's a gradual water flow that pushes them to the edge. From here they fall down into another area where there's more water, which pushes them to a central point. And then they go into another bubble column, which raises them all the way up to the top. Once again, pushed by some water, and then they fall to this drop shaft, which is just the right amount of height that anything that falls down it will die. Now, if I go through the wall there, the drop shaft comes out into this little room here, and I can pick up items that appear through that wall. I can go away from the keyboard here overnight, and I will generate items. So while the apiary module is allowing many bees to breed and producing some honey and honeycomb, it doesn't produce these things automatically. I still have to come through and collect all the honey and the honeycomb out of the hives. So I'm going to be upgrading this farm and putting it in the nether. The good thing about the nether is that there is no day-night cycle, and in the overworld, at nighttime bees go and sleep in their hive. So by building it in the nether, I can get twice as much efficiency out of the farm, which lets me produce more honey and honeycomb. Let's have a look at the time lapse of building that farm, and then I'll explain about how it works, how all the redstone works. So here I am at the honey farm, all finished. I'm just going to walk through how it works. So the honey farm has 2 layers. I'll start at the top one. The top one up here is used to get honey blocks. So to make a honey block, you have to combine 4 bottles of honey. And the way this farm works is it passes honey bottles around using these droppers and dispensers. The dropper's on the bottom, which pushes the bottle back up to the top. The dispenser uses it on the hive, which then removes the honey bottle once there's honey in the hive, and then it gets dropped into the hopper below it, and then pushed back into the dispenser, and so on and so forth, and it moves all the way around this big chain here. Now the redstone on the top works by every time you see it activate, it will make the hopper, make the dispenser and the dropper activate, and that just then forms the chain around the whole entire farm. Now on the far side of the farm over here, there's an item filter, which I'll just go into free cam to show. I got this thing here, which as the hoppers go around, it'll eventually get to here, and it'll check, is it a glass bottle or a full honey bottle? If it's a full honey bottle, it accepts it and drops it down into the storage. If it's a glass bottle, it returns it back to the start, and off it goes again. Now the signal for this part of the farm is by a comparative fader clock, which you can see down here. The way this works is there's a charge that, well, a redstone signal is generated by this torch, which goes into the comparator, but because there's 2 of them running off each other, they compare their signal over and over again and just slowly wear down their signal, which then eventually drops the signal going to the block, which then activates the torch. So you can see it flickers every few seconds. That signal goes up this redstone chain here. One goes off, and that'll invert all the other ones above it, which then sets off a signal for coming in the side here through this repeater. The good thing with this chain of torches, though, is it also activates this dropper stack here, which brings the glass bottles up from the bottom. Anyway, that's the top. The next layer down is for getting honeycomb. It's a much simpler, easy design. Okay, so much like before, there's a heap of hives surrounded in a big pattern. Now, to get honeycomb out of a hive, you have to use shears on the hive. So I've got a heap of dispensers here, pointing downwards at the hive, and when a redstone signal comes through, which is generated over there near that observer, it puts a signal through and activates all these dispensers, and any hives that have honey in it at the moment will get, the shears will work on the hive, and that causes them to drop honeycomb. You can see the redstone signal come through there, and that redstone signal just goes off every, I think, about 30 or so seconds. If there's no honey in the hive, it doesn't do anything, but if there is, it will harvest the honey and then send it down the heap of hoppers. So you can see one over here, there's honey in that hive. Just wait for the signal to go off. And you can see it got activated and the honey was removed. That honeycomb will be picked up on the hoppers and funneled out to a storage area. You can sort of see down there. But the way this one works, go on the outside again. This is using a hopper clock. So there's items in this hopper. When that hopper has a redstone next to it, it's locked, which means items can only go from the unlocked one to the locked one. So at the moment there will be items in this hopper draining into this one. When it gets enough items in there that this one is 0, this redstone signal will shut down, which will make that piston deactivate, which enables the block to move over here, and then the system starts again. So you see in a second, it'll deactivate. There you go, it goes off, and then the redstone block is moved. There's an observer here watching that piston, so whenever the piston moves, it creates that signal. Okay, so the top module of this, the honey bottle, or the honey block farm, is made using a design from ianxofour, which I very much stolen for this here. I've modified it slightly to make it work in my circumstance. However, the bottom one down here is a design I've made up. Same principles as the above one with dispensers, but that's how this section works. Let's go down to the bottom and have a look down there. Okay, so on the left here is the system for collecting honey bottles. You can see they all appear in here. To make honey, I have to pull the honey bottle out. I go over here and craft a honey block, which is 4 honey bottles. I do that a few times. I throw my empty glass bottles in here, and that'll get circled back into the farm. And I've now got some honey blocks, which I add to my chest there for later. I can do that again to clear out all this farm has produced. And all I have to do is sit here for a while, and I will get honey blocks. Now the other side of the farm collects honeycomb. This one's simple, it all comes through this big chain of hoppers and then funnels down to these chests. So at the moment, I open one of these chests and you can see honeycomb funneling in there from above, and that just slowly builds up over time, and I've got a chest full of it here, as you can see. So some of these chests are full, but that's nice and easy. The good thing about both these farms is I just say AFK, or go away from the keyboard in this room, and that will generate items. So I can leave the game running overnight and come back the next day, and there'll be lots of items waiting for me to collect. So it's how to play Minecraft without actually playing Minecraft. Now both these farms have a lever in here that I can use to turn off the farm, which once I've got enough items that I'm happy with, I'll turn it off like that. And that does some stuff on the back here. In this case, puts a redstone charge up and locks the hopper, therefore this hopper clock will stop working. The other side over here, put power onto this block here, which then means the fader clock will always be on. Once again, that'll turn off the other farm. That way, I'm not going to be lagging the server lots. I'm in the ocean monument that we cleared in that first episode, and there's a number of nice looking blocks in here. There's prismarine bricks, sea lanterns, and dark prismarine. And these are kind of the iconic underwater building blocks, and they're the things that are going to be a major part of the builds coming up. And I need a way to get many of these. I can remove some of them from the temple, but that's a finite resource and they will run out. So we're going to build a guardian farm, which are the fish creatures that live in this area, as they have a chance to drop the components which you need to make these blocks. If I kill enough of them, then I will eventually have an infinite source of these blocks, which means I can make some really cool big builds. way this one works is Guardians can spawn near an ocean monument, and there is an ocean monument over there. Sort of see it. And Guardians will spawn in the water around that. So we'll go up this water elevator, and we'll go to the top of the elevator here where the main farm is. Now, in Minecraft, enemies can spawn within certain distances from the character, and one of those things, I'll just kill some of these guys so we can see them spawning, is enemies that are further than 128 blocks from the character will despawn, but enemies that spawn within that radius can survive in the game. Now I've got this a mod called Mini HUD, which you can press a button here to show you the spawn radius. If you use free cam, you'll see this is the area where enemies can spawn. And this farm is designed on the fact that we're in an ocean. In the air, nothing can spawn around us because things can't spawn in the air. There might be a few enemies who can spawn in the water, but that's not something that happens very commonly. But one of the places in the water where enemies do spawn a lot is near the ocean monument. So this spawn area covers off some of the area above the ocean monument. I'll turn it off here, you can see the ocean monument, which means we can get things like Guardians spawning. Now, at any one time in that big sphere around the character, there can be a set number of enemies that can spawn. I think it's something like 70 enemies, although the game mechanic might be slightly different to that. So enemies will spawn. I'll go back to where the character is. And, oh, they'll appear here. So I'm just going to kill these guys so you can see them spawning. Okay, if we go back down under here, only place in that sphere where they can spawn is underneath these portals, and because they're all spawning here, that's where they will all appear. Now, no monsters can appear anywhere else, so we'll get lots of them appearing here. Now, the Guardians come up through the scaffolding, they jump around on here till they eventually touch a portal, they get teleported to the Nether. They sit in the Nether for a few moments before they then come back out through this portal at the top up here. Now, let's kill these guys here once again. They keep appearing. You'll see them come out of here in a moment. So at the moment, the monsters are spawning down there on that platform, and then they appear out of the portal at the top. They fall down this drop chute, where it's 22 blocks high. A drop of 23 blocks will kill any item and any person in the game, including monsters. So a drop of 22 will drop any monster to 1 heart, which means when I attack them, they should all die very quickly. Now this enables me to farm Guardians. Their items get dropped out in this water stream, where they get collected underneath, and they also get XP, which can be used for enchanting. As you can see, I've got an enchanting room up here for the exact purpose. But every 15 or so seconds, I can kill the big stack of Guardians, get a heap of XP, enchant more items, and then turn around 15 seconds later and kill some more. Which is one of the better ways to get XP in the game. Now, there is some redstone here, which I'll explain in a moment. But the key mechanic here is that when a Guardian dies, their items get dropped off, they fall in this water stream, and then go over the top of these hoppers here. Underneath it is an item sorter, which lets me pull key items that the Guardians drop when they die out, and then they go into a big storage area here, which lets me build things like prismarine, which are the blocks, the greenish blocks here. Now this farm has 2 modes. There's a active killing mode, which is this one, where I can go up and take a swing with a sword and kill lots of Guardians, which gets me XP, as well as lots of items. But the other option I've done is I've put a lever in underneath the farm here. Now this lever, when activated, will change the top of the farm. We'll go up and have a look at that now. When I activate that lever, it puts a redstone signal all the way up here. Activates this piston, which pushes some glass, and now the Guardians will come out the other side of the portal and fall down. They fall down here. It's now a higher drop than the 23 blocks, so the Guardians die instantly. And then their items get stuck on this ledge here, where then they get pushed off using this circuit over here, which I'll show you in a second. which pushes items into this water stream. So sort of see it, they'll go around there, and then through the item filter. Just watch another wave of guardians come out here. These are the items. Now, any items that I don't want that aren't in the item filter will get washed over the top of the hoppers here and hit the cactus where the items get destroyed. Which means you don't clog up the server with too many items appearing. Now this system over here that activates the piston is a comparator fader clock, which activates about every 5 or so seconds, which triggers this piston to push items into the water stream. The good thing about this is it only sends items through about every 5 or so seconds, or big clumps of items, which means there's more time for items to be filtered through the item filter. Now if I have a look here, we're mainly collecting these prismarine shards and the prismarine crystals, which are used to make prismarine blocks. So I can make prismarine sea lanterns or prismarine bricks. Prismarine bricks require prismarine shards, the prismarine requires less of the shards, and sea lanterns also require the crystals. And these are the main items which will be used in an upcoming build. I have made a little forward base here in the middle of the Badlands biome, which has this little pond here, but no other water within 128 blocks. What that means is there's only a certain number of water mobs that can spawn at any time in the game, and this forces them all to spawn in this one pond right in front of me here, which means it's very easy to farm the squids. Now to make dark prismarine I need black ink, and that's what I'm doing here, is trying to kill squids to get some black ink. It's slow, but it does achieve a result. I've been killing these squids for a few hours now and have a lot of ink, but I can't see myself doing this in the long run. So I've decided to reach out to Foxy, who's responsible for making dyes, to see if we can do a collaboration on building a farm together. So Foxology, Ronnie and I are going to be heading out to the end dimension here. We're going to be building a wither rose farm, and the end is a really good place to build this because there's portals which can be used to trap a wither, and we can then use that wither to use the wither's attack to kill endermen, which generates something called a wither rose. A wither rose is the other way to get black ink, and as we set this farm up, it should be a pretty quick way to get another AFK farm set up. Now my main role here is to be spawn proofing the area, which involves putting water down all over the map, and that stops endermen from spawning. And while I'm doing that, Fox will be building the main farm. Now I'm not going to show you the whole farm here. If you want to see the building of that farm, have a look at Fox's channel. They've made a really good video already. farm is a raid farm. This is a rather complex farm for understanding the game mechanics. But raid farms work by causing raids. Now, to create a raid, the player has to kill a pillage captain. And the pillage captain is a pillager which has a flag on its back. So I'll go up and have one. I've got one captured up the top here in a boat, so you can see it. Okay, you can see the guy there has a flag. He's a pillager captain. So when he dies, he gives a debuff to the character, which is called Bad Omen, which will appear up in the top right-hand corner. You can see up there next to that heart symbol. You'll get a Bad Omen effect. Now, when I have the Bad Omen effect and I walk near a village, it will create something called a raid, which is waves of many enemies will appear and try and attack the village, and it's up to me to defend the village. Now, we're using this mechanic in this farm to cause raids to occur, and the way that the game defines the village is where there is a villager next to a job block. So if we go up here, this farm has a villager next to a composter block, which means that villager becomes a farmer, and therefore this is then considered to be a village by the game. Now when the farm starts, this piston will move, moving this job block out of the way, so the game goes, okay, there's no longer a village here, where is my next closest village? And it looks for another villager. Up the tower here is another villager, and it determines that this must be where the villager is. However, at that same time, piston moves again, moves the composter block, the game checks again, looks up again, and it goes so on and so forth up this tower, looking at each of these villagers until it gets to the top. And at this point, this is where it determines the villagers for the raid. Now, this villager is far enough away from that first one that a second raid can start on that first villager, while the first raid is still occurring on this last villager, meaning that multiple raids can be occurring simultaneously, which creates many enemies to kill, and when the enemies die, they drop items. In this case, the item we're trying to get is emeralds. Now, this farm has an item sort over here. Items will get washed out by this water, get washed across the top of the hoppers here, and emeralds will be removed from the stream. Excess items hit this fire and get destroyed, but the emeralds is what I want, and they get pulled out through these hoppers. Now, the reason I've got so many hoppers here is because it produces so many emeralds. So each hopper can only pull 2 items out every half a second or so. So if I'm producing enough emeralds that I need to be pulling out at least, I don't know, what's that, 5 times 10, let's say, 5 times 2 rather, which is 10 items every half a second, I need this many hoppers to make sure I can get all the items out of the farm. Now I'll show you how it works. I trigger it by killing the captain. Now every time the raid starts, the captain is the first mob who will appear. He'll fall down this and get caught in this boat, which means I don't have to go to find one of these to start the farm. So when I kill this guy, I'll get the Bad Omen effect, which will then start a raid immediately. Okay, you can see a raid starting. I have to run down here and get to this little room. And then I can start to attack every half a second. Every 1.5 seconds, rather. Now as I attack the armor stand, the sweeping edge enchantment will trigger, and it'll kill monsters or mobs who are above me. You can see them all dying there in the audio descriptions. When I kill some, that'll trigger another raid, which you'll hear when the horns start soon. You hear the horn going, so next raid has started. And then there you go, another raid, and then a third raid started. And this just keeps going over and over again. It doesn't take very long for me doing this till I start to get lots and lots of items. So I've been winging here for about 30 seconds. We'll see how many emeralds I have at the end of this. We'll go for a few more seconds. But while I'm doing this, this farm design is made by ianxofour. If you want to make this farm, have a look at the video in the description. It just tells you how to build it. exactly how it works. Cool thing about this farm is the longer I go, it actually throttles up, and I end up getting many raids happening quicker. The first raid took a little moment to start, but when I get to here, I get almost a new raid every time I swing the sword. Which means many items. Okay, so I'll walk out of here. See the leftover guys getting killed at there. Okay, but if I go down the bottom and we'll have a look in these. It's generated quite a few emeralds already. That's only for about a minute in the farm. It also drops all these other items, which I don't really want, which I throw into the water. Which gives me room for all the emeralds, which are used to trade with villagers for other items. You can probably hear there's still lots of bad guys up the top there. See them all stuck in this room. For me to get rid of them, I just have to fly away. And they'll be spawned because I'll be outside of the monster radius. Gotta get more than 128 blocks away. Which tridents and rainstorms are very good at that. And then when I come back to the farm, all those guys will be despawned. Yeah, here the farm is nice and quiet. The only people that'll be left over at the end are the ones that have fallen into this boat, which is once again a raid captain, which means I can start the farm when I'm ready. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this sort of content that I've been creating, please like and subscribe, and you'll get notifications when new videos get released. The next video that I'll be making will be creating a large university town, and this requires heaps and heaps of prismarine, so I'm sitting here at this Guardian farm and will be for a few days so I can get the required items. But please tune into the next episode. If you have any suggestions for the name of the university, please leave a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.